All right, let's get started right away. Sorry for my lateness. Thank you for your patience. Barakallahu fikum. So we're continuing here in the explanation of Qatrun Nada. Someone told me I shouldn't be giving this to you in English. Told me I'm betraying Arabic language by teaching this in English. Just leave it in Arabic and teach English in English. Obviously, I disagree. Let's continue here. The author says, Ash-Sharh, the explanation. An-Nawasikhu jam'u nasikh. He says, An-Nawasikh is the plural of nasikh. Now that's interesting there. Let me just double check with my copy because what I know of the rules of sarf is that an-nawasikh is the plural of nasikha, feminine. Hold on. So here, let's see. Bismillah. Yeah. Okay. So that's what's in my copy. That's how we took it. An-nawasikh jam'u nasikh. But what I know is this form here, which is fawa'il, the pattern of fawa'il, is the plural. This pattern is a plural for the pattern fa'ila. Fa'ila, feminine. You say, for example, hiya kafira. She's a disbelieving woman. Kafira. Fahunna kawafir. They are kawafir. Disbelieving women. And like that. But this is what he said. So either that's a valid saying or he's mistaken. Either it's a valid saying or he's mistaken. He says, وَهُوَ فِي اللُّغَةِ مِنَ النَّسْخِ بِمَعْنَى الْإِزَالَةِ. And in the language, it comes from nasikh, with the meaning of removal, because nasikh has other meanings in Arabic language also. Has the meaning of removal. Like you learned about nasikh in tafsir of the Quran. Nasikh in tafsir of the Quran. Allah would reveal an ayah and then he would yansakhuha. He would abrogate it. So we're going to call these the abrogators, what we're talking about. We're going to call this abrogation, but we're talking grammar here. You call, it is said, nasakhati shamsu dhil. The sun, nasakhat, removed the shade. Ida azalathu. That's what you say if the sun made the shade go away. Nasakhat. It removed it. Wa fil istilah. And in the terminology of the grammarians, ma yarfa'u hukm al-mubtada'i wal khabar. It is that which removes the judgment of the mubtada and the khabar. Like we talked about last week. Inshallah, that's clear for you. You've reviewed. We talked about what is the judgment of the mubtada and the khabar. What do we mean removes their judgment? What judgment do they have so that we would remove them? So I'll remind you quickly here. The mubtada, if we say Zaydun qa'imun, so the mubtada, its judgment is to be marfu'. Zaydun Marfu' by ibtida. That star there means it's starting. By starting. It's marfu' by starting, not by being under the influence of something. Default. Yani factory settings. Marfu' by starting with it. And the judgment of the khabar is that it's also marfu' by the mubtada though, not by starting, you're not starting with it. By the mubtada, the khabar is marfu'. The mubtada itself is marfu' by starting, and the khabar is marfu' by the mubtada. So if you have a question about that, ask please. That's their judgment. And so these abrogators come upon the mubtada and the khabar and abrogate their judgment. So if it were Kaana, if Kaana were the abrogator here, then it abrogates this rule for the mubtada. Now the mubtada is no longer marfu' by starting. Now the mubtada is marfu' by Kaana. It's under the influence of Kaana, and really it's not even a mubtada anymore. Now it's Kaana's noun. Kaana has commandeered this sentence, has taken command. Now it's Kaana's noun. Zayd is called Kaana's noun. Ism Kaana, as he's going to tell us. It's not called mubtada anymore. And qa'im is called Kaana's predicate. Kaana's predicate. Yani khabaru Kaana. Khabaru Kaana. It was khabarul mubtada. Now it's khabaru Kaana. So that's what it means to say that these abrogators remove the judgment of the mubtada and the khabar. We spoke about that last week. So he says, وَهُوَ ثَلَاثَةُ أَنْوَاعٍ. There are three types of these abrogators. مَا يَرْفَعُ الْمُبْتَدَأَ وَيَنْصِبُ الْخَبَرُ. I made a mistake here. Sorry about that. And Qa'im becomes mansub by Kaana, not marfu'. Sorry. And Qa'im becomes mansub by Kaana. It's no longer marfu' by Zayd, by the mubtada, that is. The khabar is no longer marfu' by the mubtada. It becomes, in this case, because of Kaana, mansub by Kaana. So now it's called Kaana's predicate. Khabaru Kaana. He says, وَهُوَ ثَلَاثَةُ أَنْوَاعٍ. There are three types of these abrogators. مَا يَرْفَعُ الْمُبْتَدَأَ وَيَنْصِبُ الْخَبَرُ. The first is what makes the mubtada marfu'. Here, makes the mubtada marfu' and makes the khabar mansub. وَهُوَ كَانَ وَأَخَوَاتُهَا. That abrogator is Kaana and all of her sisters. Kaana and her sisters do this job. وَمَا يَنْصِبُ الْمُبْتَدَأَ وَيَرْفَعُ الْخَبَرُ. And the second one acts in the reverse way. It makes the mubtada mansub and makes the khabar marfu'. وَهُوَ إِنَّ وَأَخَوَاتُهَا. That's Inna and her sisters. So when you would have said Zaydun qa'imun mubtada and khabar, if Inna came, which we usually will translate as certainly, verily, we'll see when we come to it, bi'ithnillah. Then you say, instead of Zaydun qa'imun, you'd say, Inna Zaydan. Inna Zaydan qa'imun. So becomes mansub by Inna. So that's Inna's noun now. Now Zayd is Inna's noun, no longer is a mubtada. And qa'im is marfu' by Inna. So it's khabaru Inna. Ism Inna, Ismu Inna, Ism, yani Inna's noun and khabaru Inna, Inna's predicate. He says, وَمَا يَنْصِبُهُمَا مَعًا. And the third one is what makes both of them mansub together. وَهُوَ ظَنَّ وَأَخَوَاتُهَا. And that is Dhanna and her sisters. And so when you would have said, put it down here, when you would have said Zaydun qa'imun mubtada and khabar, if you bring dhanna, then it becomes dhanna Zaydan qa'iman. Dhanna means he thought. He thought. So now it means he thought Zayd standing. He thought Zayd standing. Like, imagine you said, for example, do you think me a fool? Do you think me a fool? He thought Zayd standing. Not he thought Zayd is standing. No. It means he thought Zayd standing. So now both of these are maf'ul, direct objects. The first direct object and second direct object for Dhanna and her sisters. So we'll see it when we get to it. Insha'Allah ta'ala. So he goes on and he says, may Allah have mercy upon him. وَيُسَمَّ الْأَوَّلُ مِنْ بَابِ كَانَ إِسْمًا وَفَاعِلًا. He says, now the first one, that is, when we talk about Kaana, then the first one, which was the mubtada, starts to be called a noun. It becomes called a noun. So you say ism Kaana, Kaana's noun. Or it's called fa'il, doer, the doer of Kaana. But this second one here, we're not going to be calling it that. This one, there's some talk here. Yani, it's not really a doer though. It's not really fa'il. Fa'il here, that's figure of speech. For the grammarians, even for the grammarians, that's a figure of speech. We're talking grammar here, right? So, if we're talking grammar, one might say, hold on a second, figure of speech, we're talking grammar here. They might say, yeah, we're talking grammar, what's the problem? Somebody say, well, when you're talking grammar, that means you're not using the words by their original meanings. Anyway, you're using the words by a specialized meaning. You're configuring these words to use them for grammar. So that's a type of figure of speech in itself. Because the word just simply has a linguistic meaning. Anything other than the linguistic meaning would be a figure of speech, isn't it? So the grammar terms are a figure of speech in and of themselves. What do you mean? This is the figure of speech and it's grammar. That's a great question. What we mean is, first of all, the scholars don't agree that using specialized terminology in a field is a figure of speech. They don't agree. So some of them said no. Some of them said yes, you're right. It's all figure of speech because it's specialized terms. Others, they said no, it's not all figure of speech. They said, it's true, these are not the literal meanings in the language. That's true. He said, but there's different kinds of literal meanings. And one type, without going far, is the literal meaning in a field. That means that sometimes the people of a field, when they talk amongst each other, they use their specialized words, but in their own field, they're talking their language. So then their specialized usage of these words becomes for them literal. So any field you want to talk about, grammar, when the grammarians talk to each other with their grammar words, they're speaking to each other literally, to each other, not to outside of their field. the doctors, the mathematicians, any field you want, the sports people, any field you want. When you use certain words amongst them, it's like you're talking literally. So when you, in their field, now take that word that has a specialized meaning in that field and then use it a different way, now it's like a figure of speech in the field. I'll give you an example. I hope I'm not going far here. For example, we are Muslims. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. May Allah enable us to die as such. Ameen. And so as Muslims, we have what? Jargon, terminology in our field. So I might say to you, did you make salah? Did you do your salah or salat? Or salat, some people would say. So you know what I mean, right? It means the prayer that starts with the takbir and ends with the salam and has moves and words. So that's what we mean. That's literal for us as Muslims. Salah, did you do salah? You ask your child, did you make salah? Did you do your salah? So, but it has linguistic meaning. Salah means dua. Just making dua, that's salah. That's why we make as-salatu ala nabi. We make dua for the Prophet. So what if you said to him, did you make salah, to the Muslim? And then he didn't make salah, so he says to you, yes. And he means, I made dua, but he's not telling you that. So what's he doing? He's using it like a figure of speech. Even though that's really the actual, the literal meaning of the word. But now in your field, he's using it like a figure of speech. So here, back to our topic. He says, what was the mubtada when it comes to Kaana becomes called ism, a noun. Ismu Kaana, Kaana's noun, or the noun of Kaana. Or it could be called fa'il, doer, but that's a figure of speech for the grammarians. It's not really fa'il. Fa'il is reserved for another meaning for the grammarians. He says, if you have any question, feel free, please. وَيُسَمَّ الثَّانِي خَبَرًا وَمَفْعُولًا. And the second one is called a khabar. So it keeps its name khabar. But it's not khabar of mubtada, it's now khabar of Kaana. It's called a khabar, or it's called a maf'ul. Maf'ul means direct object. It's not really a maf'ul though. Also, same thing here. It's not really a direct object. So, let me demonstrate for you. So when we say Kaana Zaydun qa'iman, Kaana Zaydun qa'iman. Okay, so this is Kaana. She's the nasikha, the abrogating verb or the abrogator. And Zayd is Kaana's noun, and qa'im is Kaana's predicate. And what do we see here? We see a verb, and we see a word that's marfu' and a word that's mansub. So, excuse me. In appearance only, just like from the outside, it looks like when you say daraba Zaydun Amran. Daraba Zaydun Amran. So we have here a verb, daraba, just like we have here a verb, Kaana. And we have here a noun that's marfu', just like we had there a noun that's marfu'. And we have here a noun that's mansoob, just like we had there a noun that's mansoob. What does this one, the second sentence mean? Daraba Zaydun Amran. Zayd hit Amr, or Zayd struck Amr. Zayd in this sentence is fa'il, doer. He's the striker. And Amr is maf'ul, done thing. Yani, receiver of the act. He's struck. So this is a case of a real fa'il and maf'ul. Kaana Zaydun qa'iman is not real fa'il and maf'ul, but only looks like it. Since it looks like it, then some scholars called it that. Sometimes even, not always. So that's the deal there with this figure of speech. The author says, وَيُسَمَّى الْأَوَّلُ مِنْ مَعْمُولَيْ بَابِ إِنَّ اسما والثاني خبرا. Let me erase this here, give me some space. He says, وَيُسَمَّى الْأَوَّلُ مِنْ مَعْمُولَيْ بَابِ إِنَّ اسما. So he says, وَيُسَمَّى الْأَوَّلُ, the first, min. Okay, so the first, yusamma, is named. Yusamma, it's come from the word ism, name. Yusamma is named. The first of the two, min ma'mulay babi inna, from the two words in the case of inna, are also called isman, noun. Wathani, the second one, is called khabara, khabar, just like in kana. Ism kana, khabar kana. Ism inna, khabar inna. But let me draw your attention to this word here. And this is an important word. Ma'mul. Ma'mul. That says ma'mulay. You see that fatha and that ya? That's for dual form. That's ya for dual form there. Ma'mulay babi inna. Yani, let me break this down for you. Maybe I'm moving too fast for myself. So he says, وَيُسَمَّى الْأَوَّلُ مِنْ مَعْمُولَيْ بَابِ إِنَّ isman wathani. So the first one is called ism, and the second is called khabar. Okay. Min ma'mulay babi inna. I'm going to just break down this part of the sentence right here. From here to here. So you see what's going on there. So, min harf jar, prepositional particle. Yani, basically means here, from. Ma'mulay, ma'mul is ism majroor. That's the object of the prepositional particle. Had this yet, and I've been there, you'd say min ma'mulin, kasra, because of min. Majroor. So then what's the sign of jar here? Wa alamatu jarrihi ya. Wa alamatu jarrihi ya. Why? Who can tell us why would ya be a sign of jar? Why would or when would ya be a sign of jar? I'll give you a 10 count. Should be quick for you though. That's important. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah would be a sign of jar if you're talking about dual form. So you say, for example, min rajulaini. Min rajulaini. So that yeah right there, that's the sign of jar. Or when you talk about plural form, like if you said min al-muslimina, here, this yeah is a sign of jar. It's just when it's dual, the yeah is going to have a fatha before it and a kasra after it. And when it's plural, the yeah is going to have a kasra before it and a fatha after it. This is very important for you to know it. Maybe we'll go back and review it, inshallah ta'ala. Because this talk here is very, very, very fundamental. This is all what we've been building up for. Yani, we started here. And we've been building upon this exactly for this reason. So the better you know it, the more you can follow. So here, ma'mulay, here's the ya, which is a sign of jar. And here's the fatha that comes before it. Otherwise, it would have been min ma'mulin, just like it would have been min rajulin instead of min rajulain. So then where's the noon with the kasra? It got omitted. That noon with the kasra got omitted from there. Because وهو مضاف, ma'mulay is a mudaf. وباب مضاف إليه. Bab is mudaf ilayhi. So it's ma'mulay bab. So, like you say, for example, let's say you'd say the two men of the door. The two men of the door. Let's say the two men of the door of the house. So here's the door of the house. Babul Bait. Babul Bait, the door of the house. So what if there were two men of the door of the house? You'd say min rajulay. That's a yat right there. Min rajulay babil bait. So it was originally what? Here, rajulain. There's the noon there. But we dropped that noon here because became idafa, because we said the two men of the door of the house. So the two men of the door of the house. Here, the two men of the door. The door of the house. So that's what he's saying here. He's saying, min ma'mulay babi inna. Took the noon off because there's an idafa here. The ma'mul, the two ma'muls of the bab. Bab here meaning chapter. Chapter of inna. Well, bab also itself is a mudaf, because mudaf to inna. Mudaf, babi inna, the chapter of inna. So inna is mudaf ilayhi. Okay. Excuse me. So if you have any question about that, let me know, please. So he says, ويسمى الأول من معمولي باب إن. The first from the two ma'muls of the chapter of Inna is called Ism. والثاني خبرا. And the second is called Khabar. So now what does ma'mul mean? Went through all of that to say what does ma'mul mean too. I wanted to show you what's working in the sentence, what's going on in the sentence. What does this word mean? It's an important word. So ma'mul is the pattern of maf'ul. Hope you're keeping track of your patterns. Ma'mul has the pattern of maf'ul. And maf'ul, that pattern means done. Done. Yani basic receiver. Basically means receiver. Receiver of what? Receiver of whatever those root letters mean. What are the root letters here? The root letters are Ain, Mim, Lam. Those are the root letters there. So Mim and Wow, those are extra letters. So what are these root letters here? Those ma'mul then comes from the word amila. That's past tense verb. To act, to do, to perform. Ya'malu. That's mudari', present or future tense. And what's the source of this? Amala. Amal. Amalan. Well, let me just simplify that though. Amal. That's the source. Amal. This word amal, we learned about it before in these lessons. That's the activity, basically. Words have an activity. They have a power. Then we say some words have powers. Might have the power to render another word marfu', or has the power to render another word mansub, or has the power to render another word majrur or majzoom. This power is its activity, which is its amal. It's amal. So the mubtada has an amal, which is to make the khabar marfu'. Kaana has amal, is to make the first word marfu' and the second word mansub. It's an amal. So then the one who does, the active one is called amil. Amil. That's the active one. Ma'mul is the one acted upon. The ma'mul is what's acted upon. So here he says, وَيُسَمَّى الْأَوَّلُ, the first one, min ma'mulay babi inna, from the two that have been acted upon in the chapter of Inna, isman. Ism, noun. The first one's called ism. وَالثَّانِي خَبَرًا, the second one's called khabar. And then he continues, وَيُسَمَّى الْأَوَّلُ مِنْ مَعْمُولَيْ بَابِ ظَنَّ, and the first one from the two that have been acted upon, the two influenced words, the two governed words. We used all these words here, meaning the same thing for us. The activity, the power, the governing. The first of the two influenced words in the chapter of Dhanna is called Maf'ulan Awwala. It's called a first direct object. وَالثَّانِي مَفْعُولًا ثَانِيًا. And the second one is called the second direct object. So here Ibn Hisham gave us an introduction into the three types of abrogators. And so we took our time to explain these few lines here. وَالْكَلَامُ الْآنَ فِي بَابِ كَانَ. The discussion now is about the chapter of Kaana. The verb Kaana, it's an irregular verb. وَأَلْفَاظُهُ ثَلَاثَ عَشْرَةَ لَفْظًا. And the wordings of these sisters, that's figure of speech, of course. These are verbs. The wordings of these sisters are 13 words, yani 13 different expressions. So he says there's 13 of them, including some of them that are compound. Wahi, and those وَهِيَ عَلَى ثَلَاثَةِ أَقْسَامٍ. And these verbs, these sisters, are divided into three categories. مَا يَرْفَعُ الْمُبْتَدَأَ وَيَنْصِبُ الْخَبَرَ بِلَا شَرْطٍ. One category makes the mubtada, the subject, marfu', and makes the khabar, the predicate, mansub, without any condition. Just automatically. There's no special condition that makes them work like that. So when sister asks, do you need to understand Arabic? You don't have to understand, you don't have to know how to speak Arabic here. But now we reached the point where there's words we're using that's going to be important for a person to know. Like marfu' and mansub and things like that. But if you want to ask, feel free. Feel free, and maybe depending on your question, I'll delay it till the end. So what makes the mubtada marfu' and makes the khabar mansub without any condition? وَهِيَ ثَمَانِيَةٌ. There are 8 of those, so that's most of them then. 8 out of 13. Kaana was. Kaana can mean was, or it could mean became, could mean became. You're going to see that all of these could mean became, or a number of them, if not all of them. We'll see. He's going to tell us. وَأَمْسَى, entered into the night. That's the meaning of this verb. أَمْسَى أي دَخَلَ فِي الْمَسَاء. Entered into the night. وَأَصْبَحَ, entered into the dawn. أي دَخَلَ فِي الصُّبْحِ. وَأَضْحَى, a entered into the morning. دَخَلَ فِي الضُّحَى. وَظَلَّ, and ظَلَّ means baqiya, stayed, remained. وَبَاتَ means spent the night, spent the night. Like you'd say, Bata Zaydun Musalliya. Zayd spent the night praying. While Sara became, Sara means became. And all of these right now are past tense. Walaysa, laysa is negation. Laysa is negation. It doesn't really translate as a verb. Laysa means not. Not this word not in English is not a verb. We'll see what's going on with Laysa, insha'Allah ta'ala. Laysa has some details. So those are the ones that do this job without any condition. So remember, you have mubtada wa khabar. Mubtada, nominal subject. So you'd say, for example, let me use a different example other than Zaid. Let's say al-Muslim. Al-Muslim. Okay, what about him? Al-Muslimu. Let's just say here, Tawil. The Muslim is tall. Yani, some Muslim. There's a Muslim, he's a tall man. Al-Muslimu tawilun. Al-Muslimu tawilun. So, Al-Muslim, that's the subject of the sentence, the mubtada. And tawil, tall, that's the predicate of the sentence. Al-Muslimu tawil. The Muslim is tall. Yani that one in particular, someone. So you bring any one of these 8 that he just gave us, like Kaana. So you'd say Kaana al-Muslimu, then it becomes Kaana al-Muslimu tawilan. Kaana al-Muslimu tawilan. Kaana al-Muslimu tawilan. It means the Muslim was tall. That's interesting how that became wiggly like that. It's corrupted somehow. Kaana al-Muslimu tawilan. So when I put Kaana here, it affects these 2 words the way I showed you, which is this first word has a dhamma. It had a dhamma before, but now it has a dhamma because of Kaana, not because I started with it. Kaana is affecting this word, giving it a dhamma. It had a dhamma before Kaana got there. But when Kaana came, it's like Kaana kicked away its original dhamma and brought its own dhamma. So we don't need that dhamma. We have our own. And there was a dhamma here, but Kaana kicked those dhammas away and put fatha there. Kaana al-Muslimu tawilan. And it does this to these 2 words automatically without any condition, just by putting it there. That's the meaning of it doing this job without any condition. And that's the same for any of these other ones. So you'd say, for example, Laysa al-Muslimu tawilan. The Muslim is not tall. Meaning that one, some Muslim. He's not tall. Laysa. Or we could put another one. Say, for example, Sara al-Muslimu tawila. The Muslim became tall. And like that. So these 8 verbs do this job without any condition. They just work like that when you put them. Okay. So if you have a question about that, feel free. So Ibn Hisham says about the second category, وَمَا يَعْمَلُ هَذَا الْعَمَلَ بِالشَّرْطِ. And a third category is what does this job, or what has this activity or this power to affect these words in this way, under a condition. بِشَرْطِ أَنْ يَتَقَدَّمَ عَلَيْهِ نَفْيٌ أَوْ شِبْهُهُ. With the condition that there's a negation in front of it. Or something like a negation, like a question. A question is similar to a negation. Or some other things that are similar to a negation. We'll see what he has for us. وَهُوَ أَرْبَعٌ. And those are 4. So what's 8 plus 4? 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. Out of 13. There are four of them. Zala. Zala means to go away or vanish. Wa bariha. Bariha. What does bariha mean? Let me grab my dictionary real quick. Yani, or one of them. The dictionary that I just chose now is Al-Misbah al-Munir. Don't forget, opened right up to Ba Ra. So where's Ba Ra? Ha. Bariha al-shay'u yabrah. Barahan a zala min makanihi. To go away from its place, to move from its place. Bariha, to move from its place, to go away from its place. Wa fati'a. Fati'a, what does fati'a mean? Let me look that one up too. Don't forget when you're using some dictionaries. Now, in the beginning, when you're just learning Arabic, you're probably going to need to use a translated dictionary. One like Hans Ware or another one. There's several out there, but Mawrid, don't use that one. I advise you, if you want to have strength in Arabic language, don't use Mawrid. That one will just keep you crippled longer. If you're not being able to understand Arabic is like being crippled, then Mawrid is not going to help you heal faster. Okay. But when you start using actual dictionaries, use the dictionaries of the Muslim scholars. Don't use the dictionaries of the Orientalists. Bismillah, where are we here? Okay, so we're looking up fati'a. Fata. Hamza. We want. So he says here, وما فتئ يذكره بالهمز مثل ما برح وزنا ومعنى. So فتئ, it means like bariha, to move from the place. According to Al-Misbah al-Munir, these have the same meaning. They have the same pattern and the same meaning. You say bariha, fatha, kasra, fatha, fati'a, fatha, kasra, fatha. And they mean the same, to move from the place. And in fakka, that means to separate, to split apart. So these four verbs, they will do this job that we've been talking about, but under a condition. Under the condition that before them there's a negation or something similar to a negation. He says, فَالنَّفْيُ نَحْوُ قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى. And so a negation is like the saying of God Almighty, وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ. So let's parse this sentence here. This wow, what is it? Depends on whatever's ahead of this excerpt. La harf nafi is a particle of negation. That's not a verb and it's not a noun. It's a harf, particle. Yazaluna fi'lun mudari'. This is present tense verb. We were talking about past tense, but you're going to see that what we're talking about, the rules we're talking about is for all tenses of the verb. It's not only for the past tense, but usually when you talk about the verbs, you want to start talking about them with the past tense, because the past tense is the origin for the present and future tense. And present and future tense is the origin for the command. You take present tense from the past tense, you take the command from the present tense. So but now he wants to give an example. So he started by giving us the past tense. He said zala. Yes. So what's the present tense of zala? Yazalu. Zala yazalu. Zala yazalu. So, okay. Yazalu fi'lun mudari'. It's present tense verb. Marfu'. And it's in the state of rafa'. وعلامة رفعه ثبوت النون. Its sign of rafa' is the establishment or the confirmation of the noon here. لاتصاله بواو الجماعة, because this wow of plurality is suffixed to the verb. So the verb is yazalu, and then there came a wow. This wow is a pronoun, which is they. A suffixed pronoun. So when this wow gets suffixed to the verb, then what was the sign of rafa', this dhamma here was the sign of rafa', is no longer the sign of rafa'. This is rather, this wow now is to complement, this dhamma now is to complement this wow. And then we're going to bring a different sign of rafa', which is the noon. Now the noon is going to be the new sign of rafa'. So it becomes yazaluna, yazalun. We covered that, of course. Wala yazaluna mukhtalifin. So this wow, before we get to mukhtalifin, is ism yazalu. Ism yazal. It's yazal's noun. So the origin was hakadha. Hum mukhtalifun. Hum mukhtalifun. That's subject and predicate. Mubtada wa khabar. Let me just give myself some space. Okay. So the origin was to just say hum mukhtalifun. Hum mukhtalifun. They differ. They differ. Yani they dissent. They dissent. They don't agree with each other. Hum mukhtalifun. Then comes yazal. Then yazal comes. And yazal now is going to commandeer this entire sentence, like we talked about last week. So hum is going to become yazal's nominal or noun. Ism yazal. And mukhtalifun is going to become yazal's predicate. But the thing that happens here is that you don't put this pronoun to the back of this verb. So we're going to have to replace this pronoun with a different one. So we're going to, instead of using hum, we're going to use just the wow. Maybe my thing needs an update. So we're going to bring the wow. This wow is that hum, which means they. Because we need a suffixed pronoun here. Yazalu. And this verb is in a state of rafa', so we need to bring a sign of rafa', which is the noon. So it becomes yazalun, yazalun. Yazalun. And now, if we bring the negation, we bring the negation. La. La. Now this negation basically activates this verb. Now that that negation is there, this verb is activated. Now it can do its powers. So it's going to make this pronoun marfu'. It's going to make this predicate mansub. So it was mukhtalifun, but it becomes now mukhtalifin. Mukhtalifin. La yazaluna mukhtalifin. I have a lot of scribbling going on there. I hope that's clear for you, inshallah ta'ala. So that's what happened here in this ayah. So let's continue parsing this. And by the way, before I forget, is Sister still here? Yeah, Sister Sarah. Sometimes when you talk to those people, like someone like that person, ask her, make her answer your questions too. Like she asks you, why would they use different words? And why don't they use the same word? So you ask her so she can answer for herself, not just give her answers. Say to her, why would people who speak two different languages say the same words? Make her answer. Because if you tell her, well, they speak the same language, maybe she's going to say, I don't know, you're not convincing me. But so you make her answer the question. Why would people who speak two different languages use the same words? So then if she says, I don't know, tell her, so there you go.
Okay. طيب بارك الله فيكم.
Okay. وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ. So let's parse this here. Well, let me start over. Bismillah. Well, depends on what's before this excerpt that makes us determine what this wow is. Is it mere conjunction? Is it the wow that has meaning of adverb? Or what? Is it the wow of withness? The wow of association? They say, Al-wawu ala hasabi ma qablaha. This wow, what it is, depends on whatever is before this sentence. La harf nafi, negating particle. Yazalun, fi'lun mudari'un. Fi'lun naqisun, mudari' marfu'. Fi'lun naqis. It is, first of all, a lacking verb. I said last time, deficient verb. It's a lacking verb. Because all these verbs are irregular. So this is a lacking verb. Fi'lun naqis. Naqis means doesn't take a regular fa'il, a regular doer. Rather, it needs to commandeer a previously existing sentence. So fi'lun naqisun. When we say it's naqis, means what I just told you. Commandeers previously existing sentence. Fi'lun naqisun marfu'. Mudari'. It's mudari', present or future tense. Marfu' in the state of rafa'. Wa alamatu raf'ihi noon. Its sign of rafa' is the noon. Litisalihi biwawil jama'ah. Because of the wow of plurality suffixing to it. So you know all these grammar words, even in English, plurality, suffix, etc. Wal wawu ism yazal. The wow is yazal's noun, which used to be the subject of the sentence, now becomes yazal's noun. Ism yazal. And mukhtalifin khabar yazal. Mansub, it's in a state of nasb. Wa alamatu nasbihi ya. And its sign of nasb is a ya. لأنه جمع مذكر salim. Because it's a sound masculine plural. So there we parse the sentence. وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ. So what's Ibn Hisham's point here? His point is to show you these verbs operate under a condition. Under the condition that there is a negation in front of them or something like a negation. What's like a negation? He gives us an example. He says, وَشِبْهُهُ هُوَ النَّهِي وَالدُّعَاء. What's similar to a negation is a prohibition. That means he's saying to someone, you can't. Don't do it. That's negation. Nahi. Nafi, don't confuse these words. Beginner can confuse these words easy. They come with each other a lot of times, like here. Nafi and nahi. We just finished talking about nafi. Nafi is negation. Negation. Nahi is not negation. Nahi is prohibition. Like, okay, for example, you say in Arabic, La taf'al. La taf'alu. You don't do. You don't do. That's a negation. La taf'alu. You don't do. Eat eggs raw. La taf'al. La taf'alu. You don't do that. La taf'al is just a negation. But you also say, La taf'al. Don't do it. La taf'al. Don't do it. That's a prohibition. That's not a negation. Eating raw eggs. La taf'al. Don't do it. You have weak stomach. So the first one is called nafi with fat, negation. The second one's called nahi with a ha, prohibition. So he says, what's similar to a nafi, what's similar to a negation is a nahi, a prohibition. That's a forbidding or forbiddance. Wa du'a, and a supplication or a request, if you want. A supplication. Supplication. فالأول. And so the first one, كقوله, is like what the poet said. صاحي شمر ولا تزل ذاكر الموت فنسيانه ضلال مبين. This means, cuz, roll up your sleeves. Cuz, that's like slang for cousin. Bruh, sahi. Yani, being loose there a little bit. Sahi is originally sahib. So sahib is like saying my friend, my companion. So then you drop the bat for a reason here. It's still sahib, but the bat is dropped. And you keep the kasra. So you talk to someone like that for different reasons. Like you're being cordial with him. Like you're being compassionate with him, or the likes of that. So that's why I translated it this way. Sahi shamir, bruh, roll up your sleeves. Wala tazal dhakir al-mauti. Wala tazal dhakir al-maut. And don't stop. Wala tazal, that's a prohibition, forbidding you. And don't stop remembering death. My man, roll up your sleeves and don't stop remembering death. فَنِسْيَانُهُ ضَلَالٌ مُبِينٌ. For forgetting it is clear misguidance. Yani means heedlessness here. Not misguidance like you're deviant or kafir, but means you're lost, you're going the wrong way. You're heedless. So where's the Shahid, where's the citation here? Where's the proof here in this line of poetry? Wala tazal. So here, tazal, that's the verb in question. We were talking about zala. So now, because what happened here? Look at this example I gave you. Here, when I told you an example of forbidding, then we put a sukoon right here. Yeah, because you're forbidding. So you need to put the sukoon. La taf'al. Sukoon. Okay. So that's why there's the sukoon right here. La tazal. Sukoon here for the forbidding. But the verb is originally tazal. You might be asking, where'd the alif go? Well, once we put a sukoon here on this lam, but there's already a sukoon on the alif. And what's the rule in Arabic? You can't have two sukoons in a row. So when you have two sukoons in a row, you drop the first one. So it becomes tazal. La tazal. It's going to retain its powers though. Although the form of the word changed for reason, a sarf reason, a structural reason, but the word's powers remain. So wala tazal anta, don't stop. Who's being addressed here? Anta, you. So this implied anta, that's tazal's ism. Tazal, that's its noun. It's implied. It's built in. La tazal anta, don't stop. You. Dhakir al-mauti, remembering death. And then dhakira mansub, that's the khabar of tazal. La tazal anta dhakir al-maut. So the origin of the sentence would have been anta dhakir al-maut. Dhakir al-maut with a dhamma. Anta dhakir al-maut. You are a rememberer of death, or a recaller of death. You are a recaller of death. Then when we bring la tazal, then this pronoun enta gets built into the verb itself, so we don't need to say it. If you said to a person, don't stop, so it means you. You don't have to say you. So la tazal, don't stop, and it's going to be built into the verb. Dhakirul maut. So don't stop being dhakira, and then this is going to change to a fatha. Dhakirul maut. So that's the shahid in the line of poetry. Shahid means the reference or the citation, the proof. And I have a question for you before I move on. What makes this line of poetry a proof? What makes this line of poetry a proof? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Because it's from the old Arabs. Correct answer. Because it's from the old Arabs. So the proof in the Arabic language is the Quran. That's the highest proof in Arabic language. We're not talking religion here. Well, Arabic language is a religious science. We're not talking here fiqh, is what I mean. We're not talking shara here. We're talking language. Evidence for Arabic language, the highest evidence is Quran. He gave us an ayah from the Quran. وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ. Then, second highest proof after Quran in Arabic language is not hadiths, is what? Is the speech of the old Arabs. The speech of the old Arabs. Why not the hadiths though? Why hadiths is not second proof in Arabic language? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Because we're not sure that those hadiths are exactly the way the Prophet himself worded them. You know, the Sahaba were allowed to convey the hadiths by meaning. So the wording of any hadith that reached us, is it the way the Prophet said it exactly? Or is it the companion narrating by his meaning? Or is it the tabi'i narrating by his meaning? Or is it any narrator in the chain who narrated according to his understanding? So they do cite the hadiths from time to time, but citing the hadiths is not the second strongest proof in Arabic language. So he went to a line of poetry. It doesn't have to be a line of poetry, by the way. It just has to be from the speech of the old Arabs. He could have just said something in a conversation, and it's recorded and known to be from that time, so they'll use it as proof. Or it might be a proverb, not necessarily a line of poetry. Then he says, وَالثَّانِي, the second thing that's like a negation is a dua. So he gives an example. ألا يسلمي يا دار مي على البلا ولا زال منهلا بجرعائك القطر. It means, lo, like, hear ye. Yaslami ya dar May. Oh, house of May. May is the name of his beloved, the name of the poet's beloved. So this poet is in love with a woman named May. So he makes dua for her abode, her home. Ala yaslami ya dar Mayin ala al-bila. Lo, oh, house of May, oh, abode of May, be sound from decrepitude. وَلَا زَالَ مُنْهَلًّا بِجَرْعَائِكِ الْقَطْرُ. And here, وَلَا زَالَ مُنْهَلًّا بِجَرْعَائِكِ الْقَطْرُ. And so he makes dua. This dua means, and may your lands, may the qatr, translating it and saying it in Arabic is quite different. So when you translate it into English, it's not going to be like how it is in Arabic. Two different languages here. So, wala zala, it's like he's saying, and may al-qatru, the raindrops, la zala, not stop, munhallan, dripping, bi jar'a'iki, on your lands. May the raindrops not stop falling on your lands. So you'd say, for example, in Arabic, you might say, what if you said to a person, La yahdik Allah? If it were said, La yahdik Allah. That's a dua against a person saying, may God not guide you. When I translate it, I'm going to say may, because I need to say it in a way that shows the meaning of the dua. In the Arabic, the meaning of the dua is there. So where's the shahid here? وَلَا زَالَ مُنْهَلًّا بِجَرْعَائِكِ الْقَطْرُ. Here, zala is the verb in question. La is the negation that's activating the verb. And munhallan is khabar of zala, is the predicate of zala. And al-qatru is the subject, is zala's noun. Is zala's noun, just got reversed. So the origin is to say al-qatru munhal. Munhallun. Al-qatru munhallun. The drops, yani the raindrops are falling. And then came la zala, being used for dua though. May the raindrops here, munhal needs to become munhallan, because zala is activated by la. But then what happened? This word qatr got put to the back. So basically it was like this. I showed you the origin, right? Let me back it up. So the origin is al-qatru munhal. Munhallun. The raindrops are falling. It's valid to flip that. You can say munhallun al-qatr. Munhallun al-qatru. Still valid sentence. Put the predicate in the front and the subject in the back. Munhallun al-qatru. And then we bring la zala. So then la zala works on this one, makes it become munhallan. And this one stays marfu'. So la zala munhallan al-qatru. That's what happened in this line of poetry here. وَلَا زَالَ مُنْهَلًّا بِجَرْعَائِكِ الْقَطْرُ. Now we're here juggling these lines of poetry. In Al-Ajurumiyya, you're not going to find a lot of this. In the explanation, in the explanation of Al-Ajurumiyya, it's so simple. When we learned Al-Ajurumiyya, we didn't get a lot of lines of poetry like this. Sometimes we'll get just basic sentences. Every book after Al-Ajurumiyya, we don't get basic sentences anymore. We get lines of poetry. Although I didn't take Mulhatul I'rab in the classroom. I took it from one of the students. So I took Mulhatul I'rab, but not in the classroom, so that I would see, are they also still giving lots of lines of poetry, for example, or are they keeping the examples basic? But everything after, besides Qatrun, besides Mulha, everything after Al-Ajurumiyya, all the examples were lines of poetry. Sometimes ayahs from the Quran. Okay. He says there's a third category too, which is going to be the 13th verb. وَمَا يَعْمَلُهُ بِشَرْطِ أَنْ يَتَقَدَّمَ عَلَيْهِ مَا الْمَصْدَرِيَّةِ الظَّرْفِيَّةِ وَهُوَ دَامٌ كَقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى وَأَوْصَى بِالصَّلَاةِ وَأَوْصَانِي بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ مَا دُمْتُ حَيًّا أي مُدَّةَ دَوَامِي حَيًّا. Okay, try to simplify this for you. And the third category of these sisters is the one that has a condition that what comes in front of it is this ma in particular. Not a negation, but this ma in particular. which is called Mal Mastariyatu Dharfiyah. This is the name of this ma. Need to memorize it. This ma is called Mal Mastariyatu Dharfiyah. Mastariyah is infinitive particle. We talked about infinitive particles. So you have to study. I'm so afraid that we covered so much information you didn't study. And so I'm saying something we talked about before, and it's like the first time you ever heard it. Remember we talked about N, and we talked about K? Harf Mastari. There are a number of huruf Mastariya in Arabic. Ma is one of them. And what does dharf mean? We talked about dharf too. Dharf means pocket of time or pocket of place. So this ma is called Mastariya Dharfiyah. So which verb works with this ma? It's dama. Dama means to remain. كَقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى, like when Allah says, وَأَوْصَانِي بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ مَا دُمْتُ حَيًّا. That's what Jesus said when he was just a baby. My Lord commanded me to perform the prayer and to pay the zakah, مَا دُمْتُ حَيًّا, as long as I'm alive. A muddata dawami hayya, meaning I translated it as long as, yani, for the duration of my remaining alive is the meaning. Muddata dawami, for the duration of my remaining alive. He commanded me to pray and to pay the zakah for the duration of my remaining alive. So the word mudda, that's the dharf. The pocket of time, the duration. And the word dawam, that's the masdar, that's the source of the verb. So ma, this is called ma al-mastariyah al-dharfiyah. He says, وَسُمِّيَتْ مَا هَذِهِ مَصْدَرِيَّةً لِأَنَّهَا تُقَدَّرُ بِالْمَصْدَرِ. So this ma is called mastariyah, which we called infinitive particle, because it's interpreted to have the meaning of the source noun. وَهُوَ الدَّوَامِ, which is ad-dawam. And dharfiyya, it's called dharfiyya also, لِأَنَّهَا تُقَدَّرُ بِالظَّرْف, because it has the meaning of the pocket of time. وَهُوَ الْمُدَّةِ, which is the duration. Now, I'm afraid that last part, I think I might have ended on a little bit unclear words there, but I'm just afraid of talking too much. He said, when Kaana and his sisters are conjugated for the present, do they always affect khabar in the same way? Yeah. All the forms of Kaana and its sisters work the same. Even the adjective, like ka'in, huwa ka'inun, works the same. Even the masdar itself, kaun, works the same. Ameen wa fikum. Yani, so so the command works the same too. You say kun muslima, for example, be a Muslim. Kun muslima. So kun anta musliman. You say, why does maut have a kasra on it? Because it's mudaf ilayhi. Dhakir al-mauti. Dhakir is the recaller. That's an adjective. Recaller of death. Do you have any other question? Yes, the dictionary. Yes, what's your question? The name of it is Al-Misbah al-Munir. Al-Misbah Al-Misbah Al-Munir. Al-Misbah Al-Munir. It's supposed to be Al-Misbah Al-Munir. Very famous dictionary. Very, very, very useful. I like it a lot. Although he quotes Zamakhshari a lot. Besides his quoting Zamakhshari a lot. It's a very nice dictionary. طيب. I see another question coming, or another comment. Is there a comparison to Al-Razi's, the Mukhtar, Mukhtar al-Sahah? Yeah. It's a little bit broader than Mukhtar. It could be even an explanation for Mukhtar. Not a vast one. Like a small one. Meaning, because explanation is going to be broader than the original text, right? So sometimes explanation is big one, sometimes a small one. So it's not a lot bigger than Al-Mukhtar. It's a little bit bigger than Al-Mukhtar. So they complement each other very well. It could be like if someone wanted to merge them, he could merge them by making Al-Misbah Al-Munir an explanation for Al-Mukhtar. I'd do it if I thought I had the time, but I have other things that I want to finish before I die. Maybe if I get some things out of the way and I'm still alive, I'll try, inshallah. Tayyib. We have reached where the author, may Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, and that's the prestigious Imam Ibn Hisham, said, Asl, original text, وَقَدْ يَتَوَسَّطُ الْخَبَرُ. The predicate could come in between. The predicate could come in between. In between what? In between the lacking verb, we're going to translate fi'lun naqis as lacking verb. What's fi'lun naqis? Fi'lun naqis is these verbs we are dealing with here. Kaana wa akhawatuha. Why are they lacking? Because they don't take a fa'il, which is the doer of verb, like how you say qama zaydun, Zayd stood, so qama is the verb. That's not naqis. This verb is fi'lun tam. Yani, that's a complete verb if you want. That's a complete verb because it just needs a fa'il. Qama zaydun. That's it. But these verbs are lacking verbs because what they are doing, as you know, is commandeering an already existing sentence, a nominal sentence. So you'd say Zaydun qa'imun, Zaydun qa'im, Zayd's a stander. So that's an existing sentence. Zayd's a stander. Zaydun qa'im. And then Kaana or any one of her sisters comes along and commandeers this sentence. And what was the mubtada becomes Kaana's noun. And what was merely the khabar, yani the khabar of the mubtada, becomes Kaana's khabar. Kaana's predicate. So then you'd have three words. If we say here, he's going to say, but I'm just going to Zaydun qa'imun. That's mubtada wa khabar. So if Kaana comes, Kaana, then Kaana commandeers this sentence. So Zayd becomes Kaana's noun, Zaydun, and Qa'im becomes Kaana's predicate. Qa'iman, Kaana Zaydun Qa'iman. So what Ibn Hisham is telling us is that this khabar can come in between. Yani basically can move forward. Can move forward and essentially pushing the Kaana's noun backward. Kaana stays in front. Zayd was second. Qa'iman was third. Qa'iman can come up and become second and make Zayd be third. That's what he's saying here. So let's see what he has for us. He says, وَقَدْ يَتَوَسَّطُ الْخَبَرُ. The predicate can come in between. Or might can. قَدْ يَتَوَسَّطُ. قَدْ. We talked about qad way back in the beginning. And if you learned al-ajrumiyah, then you should have learned about qad. You did learn about qad if you've learned al-ajrumiyah. And inshallah, you remember if you did, you remember what you learned. Qad, if it comes in front of mudari' verb, fi'lul mudari', then it's going to be meaning maybe. Yani it means ihtimal. Qad means ihtimal. When it comes in front of mudari' verb, you say qad af'al. As if you're saying mumkin af'al. La'alli af'al. And it could even mean with the mudari' verb, it could mean verification. Because Allah says, قَدْ يَعْلَمُ اللَّهُ. And this does not mean Allah might know. It means Allah knows for sure. So he says, وَقَدْ يَتَوَسَّطُ الْخَبَرُ. So very literally, it means the khabar might come in between. Nahu, such as فَلَيْسَ سَوَاءً الْعَالِمُ وَالْجَهُولُ. فَلَيْسَ سَوَاءً الْعَالِمُ. فَلَيْسَ سَوَاءً عَالِمٌ وَجَهُولُ. Unequal are not equal are the knower and the ignoramus. So I'll parse this for you here. Al-fa, that's harf atuf, conjunction. And like we say about wow, you can say when you're parsing the sentence, when you do the i'rab of the sentence, which here means you're parsing the sentence. You can say, like you can say about wow here, ala hasabi ma qablaha. This fa, saying, determining exactly what it is, depends on whatever comes before it, which we don't have what's before it. So is this fa for, there's numerous ways to use the fa, and then depending on how you're using it, you're going to give it a different name. Just like wow. So without having what's before it, then we're not certain exactly how to direct this fa in our parsing. So what we're going to say is ala hasabi ma qablaha. Fa here depends on whatever came before. ليس فعل ماض ناقص. This is a past tense lacking verb. مبني على فتح, built with a فتح. سواء خبر كان مقدم, an advanced predicate of كان, of ليس, sorry. خبر ليس مقدم. It is an advanced or a forwarded خبر, predicate of ليس. Because originally you'd say ليس عالم وجهول سواء. So سواء came forward. منصوب, in a state of nasb, because it's خبر ليس. وعلامة نصبه فتحة, and the sign of its nasb is a فتحة. وعالم اسم ليس مؤخر. عالم is ليس's noun, delayed. مرفوع, in a state of رفع. وعلامة رفعه ضمة, and its sign of رفع is a ضمة. Because it's اسم ليس. الواو حرف عطف. Wow is a conjuncting particle. Or you could say الواو عاطفة, means the same thing. The wow is a conjunction. وجهول معطوف عليه, or معطوف. جهول معطوف, and jahul is a conjunct. Though I don't find the English grammarians using this word conjunct in their own talk, but I'm going to say it. فليس سواء عالم وجهول مرفوع, in the state of رفع, because it's معطوف. So the معطوف has to follow the معطوف عليه. هكذا. And there's no tanween here on jahul because of the poetry. So you say فَلَيْسَ سَوَاءً عَالِمٌ وَجَهُولُ, and you stretch it like there's a wow there. الشرح. Excuse me. The explanation. يجوز في هذا الباب أن يتوسط الخبر بين الاسم والفعل. It is permissible in this chapter for the predicate to come in between the noun and the verb. كما يجوز في باب الفاعل أن يتقدم المفعول على الفاعل. Just like in the chapter of fa'il, it is permissible for the direct object to come in front of the doer, the fa'il. Meaning, you'd say, ضرب زيد عامرا. So, Amiran, that's the maf'ul bihi. Yani, Zayd struck Amir. So, Amir, Zayd, first of all, is the fa'il, doer. Zayd is fa'il, doer. Amir is maf'ul bihi, done. Yani, receiver. Zayd is the striker here, and Amir is the struck. So it's valid to say ضرب عامرا زيد. So then it could be translated as, يعني قد يترجم, it might be translated as Amir Zayd struck. But no, it doesn't really work. Yeah, it does. Yes, it does. Amir Zayd struck. Sorry, I got confused there for a second. Amir Zayd struck. So like that, similar to that, yani, because you can do other things here too. Similar to that is what we're talking about here. And he gives us examples. Yani, but if I parse this for you really quick before I read his examples. So you'd say, ضرب فعل ماض, past tense verb. And you don't have to say tam, complete, because it's not lacking. You don't have to say tam here, like when you parse the other ones. You'd say فعل ماض ناقص, a lacking past tense verb. Here you can just say فعل ماض, past tense verb. You don't have to say tam, complete, because that's the origin. That's the original way a verb would be. So we're just going to say it like it's normal. Sometimes you try to make something normal, then it becomes abnormal. ضرب فعل ماض, that's it. Past tense verb. مبني على فتح, built on a فتح. عامرا مفعول به مقدم, advanced direct object, or forwarded direct object. منصوب, in the state of nasb. وعلامة نصبه فتحة, and its sign of nasb is a فتحة. وزيد فاعل مؤخر, and Zayd is doer, delayed. Or if you want, subject, this is the subject of the verb. Every verb is always a predicate. A verb that's tam, a verb that's complete. Every normal verb is always a predicate, always a predicate, always a predicate. So predicate's clear for you now, very clear. If it wasn't clear for you before, you didn't study English grammar very strongly. Now, inshallah, it's clear for you. Zaydun fa'il, Zayd is the doer, or subject. That's a verbal subject here, not nominal subject, because this is a verbal sentence. Marfu', yani mu'akhar, though, delayed doer, delayed verbal subject. Marfu' in a state of rafa', wa alamatu raf'ihi dhammah, and its sign of rafa' is a dhammah. So let's get back here. So then Ibn Hisham, may Allah have mercy on him, gave us some examples. He said, قال الله تعالى, said Allah, exalted is He. وَكَانَ حَقًّا عَلَيْنَا نَصْرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. It was a haqq on us, the support of the believers. So originally it is, and if you put the sentence into its original structure, it would be وَكَانَ نَصْرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ حَقًّا عَلَيْنَا. The support of the believers was a haqq on us. Then when we reverse it, it becomes, and a haqq on us was the support of the believers. Now, when you take these Arabic sentences out of their original sequence or sequences, then that's going to be for a rhetorical reason. That means for some reason in eloquence, for some meaning you want to focus on. So the meaning is not exactly the same because the focus changes. There's a difference between here ضرب زيد عامرا and ضرب عامرا زيد. All the words are the same. All the spaces of the sentence are the same. Meaning the doer is the doer in both sentences. The receiver is the receiver in both sentences. The predicate is the predicate in both sentences. But the sequence is not the same, so the focus is not the same. That's where the difference in the meaning comes in between the sentences. In this regard, and we did talk about this, in this regard, Arabic is much more customizable than English is. You're much more able to express meanings in Arabic. This is just one example, and this is a very basic one. Arabic compared to English is advanced. It's like advanced machinery. English is like, even though it came later, it's like archaic machinery. Like it's like a wagon, a horse-drawn wagon. And Arabic is like a spaceship. So, if we parse the sentence, al-waw ala hasabi ma qablaha. This waw depends on whatever came before it. Kaana fi'lun madin naqis, a lacking past tense verb. Mabniyun ala fath, it's built with the fath. حقا خبر كان مقدم. حقا is advanced predicate of kana, mansub in the state of nasb. وعلامة نصبه فتحة, and its sign of nasb is a fatha. علينا, على is harf jar. Na is damirun muttasilun, is a suffixed pronoun. Mabniyun ala sukun, it's built with a sukun on the alif. Fi mahalli jar, and it's filling the space of jar because it's being worked on by the harf jar. Nasru, ism kana, is Kana's noun. Marfu' in the state of rafa'. Wa alamatu raf'ihi dhammah, and its sign of rafa' is a dhammah. Wa huwa mudaf, and it's a mudaf. Al-mu'mineen mudafun ilayhi, and al-mu'mineen is mudaf ilayhi majroor in a state of jar. وعلامة جره الياء, and its sign of jar is the ya. لأنه جمع مذكر سالم, because it's a sound masculine plural. Don't forget, all this translation is just a crutch for you, because as long as you can't speak Arabic, then you need some crutches here. You need some training wheels. That's your training wheels, the translation. But if you do understand the Arabic, then inshallah it's a review for you. Or even maybe you're learning for the first time, but if you don't know how to say what I'm saying in Arabic, well, then you still have training wheels too. But that's okay. Here, the point is to learn and to get closer and closer. To get further from ignorance and closer to knowledge. Now, this ayah, by the way, if you remember the Aqidah of Ibn Asakir said, لَيْسَ عَلَيْهِ حَقٌّ وَلَا عَلَيْهِ حُكُمٌ. There is no haqq on him, and there is no rule on him. And so our Shaykh, rahimahullah, he put into the text of Ibn Asakir, in brackets, يَلْزَمُهُ, binding, so that Ibn Asakir's sentence becomes, لَيْسَ عَلَيْهِ حَقٌّ يَلْزَمُهُ. There is no haqq on him that's binding, because haqq means right. Why did the Shaykh make that adjustment? Because there is a haqq on Allah, but not a binding one. So Ibn Asakir's statement doesn't comply with what appears from the Quran. Doesn't comply with what appears from the Quran. His intended meaning does comply with the right belief. When he says there's no haqq on Allah, his intent does comply with right belief. But his wording does not comply with what appears from the Quran, because it says right here, وَكَانَ حَقًّا عَلَيْنَا. There's a haqq on us. So he said, لَيْسَ عَلَيْهِ حَقٌّ. There's no haqq on him. So his statement doesn't comply with what appears from the Quran. And we do want to comply with what appears from the Quran as long as we're able to. So that's why the Shaykh put in brackets there, يَلْزَمُهُ, binding, so that you know it's not the same, so that you know what's the author's intent. Ibn Asakir. His intent means binding. So then that means there's an obligation on Allah. There's no obligation on Allah. That's what Ibn Asakir meant. Here, the haqq here is a promise. And saying alayna doesn't mean it's obligatory. On us doesn't mean obligatory. Just like you could say, dinner's on me. Does that mean obligatory, or does it mean you're being generous, you're being charitable? So there's a haqq on Allah, which is a promise that he will most certainly fulfill, and not an obligation. Then Ibn Hisham gives us another example. أَكَانَ لِلنَّاسِ عَجَبًا أَنْ أَوْحَيْنَا. Nice example here. An example that makes us incorporate previous lessons. أَكَانَ لِلنَّاسِ عَجَبًا أَنْ أَوْحَيْنَا. So Al-Hamza lil-istifham. This Hamza is interrogatory. It's for a question. So the meaning of the sentences. أَكَانَ لِلنَّاسِ عَجَبًا أَنْ أَوْحَيْنَا. If I translate it literally to some degree, Was there for the people astonishment that we have revealed? That because we revealed, was there for the people astonishment because we revealed, or that we revealed? Were they astonished that we revealed something? Okay, so the hamza is for the question. كان فعل ماضي ناقص, lacking past tense verb. مبني على فتح, it's built with a فتح. للناس اللام حرف جر. Lam is prepositional particle. مبني على كسر, built with a كسر. الناس اسم مجرور. Nas is the object of the preposition. مجرور in a state of jar. وعلامة جره كسرة, and its sign of jar is a كسرة. عجبا عجبا. خبر كان, كان's predicate مقدم, advanced or forwarded. منصوب in a state of nasb. وعلامة نصبه فتحة, and its sign of nasb is a فتحة. N, who can tell me what N is? Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Harf masdari, yes. And harf masdari, infinitive particle. Infinitive particle. Naam, barakallahu fikum. أوحينا. أوحى فعل ماض, past tense verb. أوحى. مبني على فتح مقدر, built with an estimated فتحة. منع من ظهوره التعذر. What prevents that fatha from showing up is the inability. التعذر. What inability? The inability to pronounce a vowel on an alif, because the word is awha. Now, if you're asking me about the ya there, that's because the pronoun connected. But if we take the pronoun off, the ya turns back into an alif. Because awha, same thing with ala. What was that? Alayna. If we separate the pronoun, the ya turns back to alif. You say ala. If you put the pronoun on there, connect the pronoun, it becomes alayna. Disconnect the pronoun, returns back to ala. That's what happens here. Awha, originally. Connect the pronoun, awhayna. The alif turns into a ya. Disconnect the pronoun, the ya turns back to an alif. Awha. So we're going to disconnect the pronoun so we can deal with the verb. Awha. Past tense verb. Fi'lun madin. Mabniyun ala fathin muqaddar. Built with an estimated fatih. Mana'a min zuhurihi. What prevents that fatih from showing up? Why do we have to estimate it and we can't just say it? التعذر, inability. What inability? The inability to pronounce a vowel on an alif. Na, ضمير متصل, is a suffixed pronoun. مبني على سكون, built with a sukun. في محل رفع, in the spot of rafa'. Fa'il, as the doer. It is the doer of this verb. We revealed. So, then there's one more thing left. والمصدر المؤول, and the infinitive. من أن وما بعدها, the infinitive that is conjured up by N and what came after it. N is the infinitive particle. There's a verb after N, which is أوحينا. When we put those together, we get an infinitive. Yani, it's called al-masdar al-mu'awwal, the interpreted masdar. تقديره إيحاؤنا. إيحاؤنا. What's implied is إيحاؤنا. Here. إيحاؤنا. إيحاؤنا, meaning our revealing. Our revealing. So the meaning is, was there for the people an astonishment? Was there, yani, so okay, let me put it in its original form first. Let's see. So originally then the sequence would be Kaana, إيحاؤنا, عجبا للناس. So it would mean, was our revealing astonishing to the people? Was our revealing, yani revealing revelation, astonishing to the people? So if I try to translate it the way the sequence of the words is, I'd come up with, was there to the people an astonishment that we revealed? Was there to the people an astonishment that we revealed? Meaning that we revealed revelation. And then Ibn Hisham gives another example. وَقَرَأَ حَمْزَةُ وَحَفْصُ. He's saying, and according to the recitations of Hamza and Hafs, there's this ayah. لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ. So laysa, that's the fi'lun. Naqis, that's the lacking verb. And al-birra is the advanced predicate or forwarded predicate. And an tuwallu, the masdar mu'awwal, the interpreted gerund, if you want, that's the noun. Because you know, n with the verb after it, they work together as a noun, a single noun. Just like what we just finished dealing with. So the meaning is, yani, first, if I put it into its original sequence, it would be Laysa an tuwallu wujuhakum al-birra. So the meaning would be, it's not that you turn your faces, Yani, your turning your faces is not the good. Your turning your faces is not the good. Or turning yourselves. Wajh could mean face or it could mean self. Your turning yourselves is not the good. Or your turning your faces is not the good. Laysa being the negating particle, negating verb there that I'm translating as not. So if we try to translate it the way the words are sequenced in the ayah, not the good is your turning yourselves. Something like that. Binasbil bir, with the word bir in the state of nasb according to this recitation, then if the word bir has fatha is in the state of nasb according to this recitation, then this ayah is a shahid for what we are saying. But according to other recitations, laysa al-birru, then if you go by those recitations, you can't use this ayah as a shahid here, as a reference here. And now he gives us another example, which is the example he put into his text, but he gave us the whole line. Sali in jahilti nasa anna wa anhumu falaysa sawa'an alimun wa jahulu. Alhamdulillah, this line is easy to translate. The poetry is, for me, most difficult thing to translate. Most challenging thing to translate. Subhanallah. There was a centipede here. Was walking on my wall. Wanted to kill it. I said, I'm not going to stop the lesson. I'll just keep my lesson, and Allah has spared his life. And then he walked right up to me so I can step on it. MashaAllah. Okay. So what does this line mean? Sali in jahilti nasa anna wa anhumu. Ask. Sali. Ask. Anti, you, woman, female, ask. Sali. In jahilti, if you didn't know. And nasa, the people. Yani, ask the people if you didn't know. Sali in jahilti nasa. Ask if you didn't know. The people. So it's way clearer in Arabic, according to its sequence, way clearer in Arabic. Ask if you didn't know the people about us and about them. So it means ask the people about us and about them if you didn't know. فَلَيْسَ سَوَاءً عَالِمٌ وَجَهُولُ. For not equal is a knower and an ignoramus. We already did this sentence. We already parsed this. Then he gives another line of poetry. He says, وَقَالَ الْآخَرُ. And the other said, لَا طِيبَ لِلْعَيْشِ مَا دَامَتْ مُنَغَّصَةً لَذَّاتُهُ بِالدِّكَارِ الْمَوْتِ وَالْهَرَمِ. I don't know how to translate that. I'm not going to stop to look up the words now also. So where's the shahid? Madamat. Madamat. So if you know your lacking verbs, then you know madama. And then madamat, so feminine. Munaghasatan. There's the khabar muqaddam. لذاته, and there's your ism mu'akhar. So the meaning would be ما دامت لذاته منغصة. Allah knows what it means. We'll keep going here. He says, وعن ابن دروستويه, and it was recorded about a scholar whose name is Ibn Durustawayh, أنه منع تقديم خبر كان, that he deemed advancing the predicate of, did I say Kaana? Sorry, subhanallah. Khabar laysa. أنه منع تقديم خبر laysa, that he deemed advancing or forwarding laysa's predicate wrong. You can't, according to him, advance laysa's predicate in particular, laysa in particular. ومنع ابن معط في ألفيته تقديم خبر دام, and Ibn Marti in his Alfiyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, he's first one to do an Alfiyah in NaHw, 1,000 line poem in NaHw. Ibn Marti, he deemed advancing the predicate of Dama ahead of the noun wrong in his Alfiyah. وهما محجوجان بما ذكرنا من الشواهد وغيرها. Ibn Hisham says, but both of them are disproven by what we have mentioned of references and other references that we haven't mentioned. Wallahu tabaraka wa ta'ala a'lam. Allah knows best. We'll stop there. Do you have any question I can answer for you? You said, would you distinguish an-naqis with sarf and nahu? Well, naqis and sarf definitely means something completely different than it means here, in a way that there's no mixing them at all. Yani, even I need to review really to give you a good answer, but they mean completely two different things. So there's no confusion here. Let's continue here in this explanation of Qatrun Nada by Ibn Hisham rahimahullah ta'ala. We're still going over an-nawasikh, the abrogators, and we are still under the chapter of the subheading of Kaana wa akhawatuha, Kaana and her sisters. And they are al-af'alun naqisah. They are the lacking verbs. So tell the difference between abrogators and lacking verbs. What's the difference? The difference is that all of the lacking verbs are abrogators, but not all of the abrogators are lacking verbs. The abrogators are what come upon the mubtada and the khabar and assimilate the sentence. They take over the sentence. The abrogators come upon the previously existing sentence of a mubtada and a khabar, like Zaydun qa'im, and they assimilate that sentence. But not all of them are lacking verbs. Some of them are something else. We'll see when we get out of Kaana wa akhawatuha. And here Ibn Hisham says, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him, Asl, original text. وَقَدْ يَتَقَدَّمُ الْخَبَرُ إِلَّا خَبَرَ دَامَ وَلَيْسَ. The predicate could come forward, all the way forward, that means could come in front of the lacking verb altogether. And to remind you, what makes them lacking verbs? Why are they called as such? Because they don't take merely a fa'il, a mere doer. Like you could say, qama zaydun, and stop there. You have your verb, qama, stood. And you have your doer, Zayd, so Zayd stood. That's not a lacking verb. That's fi'lun tam. That's a complete verb. Which happens to be, just to throw it at you, which happens to be lazim, intransitive, doesn't take a direct object. Qama Zaydun, intransitive. Zayd stood, there's no direct object. But if we said daraba Zaydun, Zayd struck, there's a direct object even if we don't say it. Like if we were to say daraba Zaydun Amran, Zayd struck Amr. So Amr is maf'ul bihi, direct object. Whether it's transitive or intransitive, it's a complete verb, fi'lun tam, because it takes fa'il merely, which is the original case of verbs. Lacking verb doesn't take fa'il merely. Lacking verb latches on to a previously existing sentence of a mubtada and a khabar. So now we're talking about this fi'lun naqis, this lacking verb latches onto a previously existing sentence of mubtada and khabar. You know, the original way is for the mubtada to come first and then for the khabar to come second. Now you know what mubtada is. At this point, I don't have to say nominal subject. But if you don't know, you can ask. And I don't have to say nominal predicate, but I still might say it from time to time. So you have that fi'lun naqis, lacking verb. It attaches to the previously existing sentence of mubtada and khabar. So what was here, I'll write it for you. Zaydun qa'imun subject and predicate, yani mubtada and khabar. We bring a lacking verb like Kaana, then it becomes Kaana Zaydun qa'iman. Okay, that's clear for you now. And it's clear for you that the dhamma, when we say Zaydun here, Kaana Zaydun, it's not the same dhamma. Different dhamma. It's like when Kaana came, yani before Kaana came, it was Zaydun. Kaana came and said, get that dhamma out of here. I have my own dhamma. So this qa'iman can come ahead of the lacking verb altogether. And then we could say qa'iman kana Zayd. And if we speak in Arabic properly, we'll stop on a sukoon, and we're going to know there's a dhamma there. Qa'iman kana Zayd. So that's what he's saying. وَقَدْ يَتَقَدَّمُ الْخَبَرُ. The khabar could come forward. We mean here altogether forward. Last time we talked about the khabar coming in between. وَقَدْ يَتَوَسَّطُ. The khabar could come in the middle, between the verb and the Ism Kaana, which used to be the mubtada before Kaana took it over. Now we're talking about the khabar coming forward altogether. Kana Zaydun qa'ima, yani qa'iman kana Zayd. Ibn Hisham says, illa khabara dama wa lays, except the khabar, the predicate of dama, and you say ma dama, and except the khabar of laysa, like when you say laysa Zaydun qa'iman, you know laysa from laysa kamithlihi shay, same laysa. Yani, we digress really quick just so I can show you. So, laysa kamithlihi shay, what would have been the previously existing sentence before laysa came? So, the origin, if we just break the sentence down, outside of Quran, not to liken Allah to the creations, only just to see what's happening here in the words. It would have been originally shay'un mithlu, shay'un mithlu. That's origin of the sentence, which there's problem there. So I'm in a big digression here, but inshallah it's okay. Can anyone tell me what's the problem here if this were a sentence? Mithluhu shay'un mithluh. Five, 4, 3, 2. The antecedent? Not the antecedent. Yani, I'm not even thinking about the antecedent, but that's not what I'm looking for here. There's something first, which is, don't forget, can't start sentence with indefinite word. Can't start sentence with an indefinite word. Yes, al-mubtada'u nakira hakadha. Okay, but that's the origin here. Okay, problem here is the mubtada is indefinite, nakira. You can't start the sentence like that, so what we need to do, we need to put the khabar in front so that the mubtada can be nakira. So it becomes mithluhu shay, then becomes mithluhu shay. Like him is something. Then what happened? Then laysa came, and laysa comes along with its own dhamma for the ism and puts a fatha on the khabar. So it became laysa mithlahu shay. Now it means, so first it was shay'un mithluh, something's like him. But we couldn't start that way in Arabic, so we reversed it. So it became mithluhu shay. So it means like him is something. Like him is something. Then we negated it. We brought laysa, so it became not like him is something or anything. Not like him is anything. Now at this point, the meaning can be applied to Allah. But then, to emphasize the negation, a special type of harf jar was added. What do you call that one? You call it an additive. Harf jar za'id. So then became laysa kaf, though, since it's a harf jar, then it's going to take away this fatha and this dhamma. It's going to become ka mithlihi. So laysa kamithlihi shay. not like him is anything. So same laysa. Let's get back on track here. Do you have any question? طيب. So Ibn Hisham is telling us, وَقَدْ يَتَقَدَّمُ الْخَبَرُ. The khabar could come forward, not just come in between. In لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, the khabar is in between. Except إِلَّا خَبَرَ دَامَ وَلَيْسَ, except for the khabar of dama and laysa. الشرح, the explanation. للخبر ثلاثة أحوال. The khabar has three cases or three states. أحدها التأخير عن الفعل واسمه. The first of them, or one of them, which is the first of them, يعني, its original case, is to be delayed after the verb and its noun. The verb التأخير, delay, عن الفعل, after the verb, which is الفعل الناقص, the lacking verb, واسمه, and after the verb's noun, which used to be the mubtada before the verb took over. وهو الأصل, and that is the origin, that's the original sequence of words. So remember, Arabic sentences do have original sequence. And usually you can take the words out of their original sequence, but not always. Now's not the time to go into that. But there is an original sequence, and then you can shuffle the words around, but sometimes you can't shuffle the words around. Sometimes you can shuffle some of the words around and not all of them. Sometimes you can shuffle all of them around. كَقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى, like the saying of God Almighty, وَكَانَ رَبُّكَ قَدِيرًا, and your Lord was very powerful. So if we parse the sentence, if we do i'rab for the sentence, we'll say al-waw, what? على حسب ما قبلها. The waw depends on whatever was before it. So we're not just going to say interjection, conjunction. We're not going to just say conjunction or another thing, unless we knew it's there. كان فعل ماض ناقص. Kaana is a past tense lacking verb. مبني على فتح, built with a فتح. ربك اسم كان. ربك is Kaana's noun. مرفوع in state of رفع. وعلامة رفعه ضمة, and its sign of رفع as a ضمة. ورب مضاف, and the word rab itself is a mudaf, first part of idafa. والكاف ضمير متصل, and the kaf is a suffixed pronoun. مبني على فتح, it's built with a فتح. في محل جر, and it's in the spot of jar, genitive spot. مضاف إليه, it is the مضاف إليه. And قدير خبر كان. قديرا خبر كان منصوب in the state of nasb. وعلامة نصبه فتحة, and its sign of nasb is فتحة. Okay, so that's the original sequence of words. Ibn Hisham says, rahimahullah, وَالثَّانِي التَّوَسُّطُ بَيْنَ الْفِعْلِ وَاسْمِهِ. The second case or state is coming in between the verb and its noun. That's what we covered last time. كَقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى, like the saying of God Almighty, وَكَانَ حَقًّا عَلَيْنَا نَصْرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. So it means a haqq on us was the support of the believers. A haqq on us was the support of the believers. And the haqq on Allah, like we said last time, is a promise most fulfilled. A promise most definitely fulfilled, not an obligation. But we're not going to say there's no haqq on Allah, because Allah told us there is a haqq on Him. We just need to interpret it properly. That's how you stick to what appears to the Quran as much as possible. That's lesson Sheikh taught us. Yani, the idea here is going to be useful for you in some discussions in Aqidah. Like if you're talking about whether prophets committed a sin or not, or some other things. Like if a companion was unjust or not, or some other things. والثالث, and the third, التقدم على الفعل واسمه, is coming before the verb and its noun. كقولك, like for you to say, عالما كان زيد, a knower Zayd was. Yani, Zayd was a knower or scholar. A scholar Zayd was. But the translation here is not most important because it doesn't really translate exactly. In the first place, we can't even put the verb in the front in the English or it's going to become a question. Was Zayd a scholar? Kaana Zaydun aliman? Was Zayd a scholar? So now it's a question. So we need to delay the verb altogether. Zayd was a scholar. Kaana Zaydun aliman, etc. Then, yani, if we bring the khabar forward. Aliman Kaana Zaydun? A scholar was Zayd? That's a question. Aliman Kaana Zaydun? A scholar Zayd was. Then in that case, the verb got in the English got delayed to the back. Ibn Hisham says, وَالدَّلِيلُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى, and the evidence for that is the saying of God Almighty. أَهَؤُلَاءِ إِيَّاكُمْ كَانُوا يَعْبُدُونَ. Are those okay, so the meaning of the sentence is you angels or you idols are those who are worshiping you. This is on Judgment Day. Iyakum, you, but someone's being addressed here. So, aha'ula, those pagans. Are those pagans? Iyakum kanu ya'budun. You're the ones they were worshiping? You angels, you are the ones they were worshiping? Or you idols, you are the ones they were worshiping? That's the meaning of the sentence. So Ibn Hisham tells us, فَإِيَّاكُمْ مَفْعُولٌ يَعْبُدُونَ. إِيَّاكُمْ, which means you, is the direct object for يَعْبُدُونَ, worshipping, yani. إِيَّاكُمْ, you could say in Arabic, أنتم, this means you, أنتم, but that's you as subject of the sentence. And you could say إياكم, sorry, a little sloppy there. You could say إياكم, it means, yani, translates into English as you. Modern English, that is. Older English has different pronouns for doer and receiver of you. Definitely, older English definitely has different pronouns for you. But receiver, now I'm doubting. But like ye, that means you. Like when someone say here ye, yeah, it's basically saying here you here, for example. So, but in the English, when you translate it, it's just going to be you all the time. You're going to say you for masculine and for feminine and for one and for two and for three in Arabic, and for doer and for receiver and for genitive case in English. In English, you're going to say you. In Arabic, you switch it up. So, إياكم, Ibn Hisham says, فَإِيَّاكُمْ مَفْعُولٌ يَعْبُدُونَ. إِيَّاكُم is the receiver of يَعْبُدُونَ. يَعْبُدُونَ means they worship. We were saying in the beginning of the lesson. Sometimes the verb is muta'add, that means takes direct object in its meaning. Ya'budun, they worship what? Iyakum, you. But you don't put iyakum in the back there. You need to put it in the front. Iyakum ya'budun, just like you say iyaka na'bud in the Fatiha. You we worship. It means we worship you. Iyakum ya'budun, you they were worshiping? There's a question in the sentence. O angels or O idols? So Iyakum is the object of Ya'budun, the receiver, the direct object, yani the receiver of Ya'budun, they worship. He says, وَقَدْ يَتَقَدَّمْ وَقَدْ تَقَدَّمَ عَلَى كَانَ. And what happened was that it came in front of Kaana, the verb Kaana. وتقدم المعمول يؤذن بجواز تقدم العامل. He has some technical talk here. All right, so let's parse the sentence first. Then I'll, inshallah, attempt to explain what he's saying. So here's the sentence. In fact, let's see here. Yeah. So here's the ayah, the sentence from this ayah. أهؤلاء إياكم كانوا يعبدون. So, al-hamza is harfu istifham, an interrogative particle. It's a particle for asking a question. That's where the question came from. I say this hamza doesn't translate. I say this hamza could be even just question mark. This hamza could be question mark. Sometimes the particles, I say, translate as punctuation marks. Sometimes some huruf, ma'ani, translate into punctuation marks. Semicolon, question mark, and maybe some other things. Or colon. So, hamza here is for istifham, asking question. Ha'ula. Ha'ula. Here. This ha is harfu tanbih. That's the particle for drawing attention. That's particle for drawing attention. So drawing attention, yani, is close to exclamation point. Ha'ula, what does it mean drawing attention? Yeah, it's not something you can really translate into another word. So the word is the fundamental word here is ula. They or those, pointing. That's a pointing noun. Ula is pointing noun. Mabniyun ala kasr. It's built with a kasr. So ha'ula, that ha is the same. That's ha, not ha with the hamza on the end. Ha. Correct name for it is hat tanbih. I'll write it for you. Ha at tanbih. At tanbih. Hat tanbih. The ha of tanbih. Tanbih means alert, notice. So that's why I said the ha of drawing attention. Some people say ha'ut tanbih. They say ha'ut tanbih with a hamza there. Ha. So this is said, we learned that you call, it could be said ha'ut tanbih, but this way is definitely correct. Hat tanbih, ha of notice. You can put it on pronouns too. You could say ha ana. You know, ana means I. So she said ha ana. So it means I, but there's something there. You're drawing attention. Aha'ula. Are those who? Yeah. And so ula is some ishara, pointing noun. Ula is pointing noun. They or those. Mubtada fi mahal rafa'. It's in mahal rafa'. Yani it's mabni ala kasr. It's built with a kasr. Fi mahalli rafa'. In the spot of rafa'. Mubtada as mubtada, subject of the sentence. Iyakum. Iyakum is damirun munfasil, disconnected pronoun. Mabniyun ala sukun, built with a sukun, according to a saying that we're going to take for now. Some said, no, the pronoun is only iya. Inshallah, when we come to those pronouns, we'll talk about it. We did go over pronouns. I don't remember we talked about this though. Anyway, this is what we're going to go with we're going to go by this for now. So, iyakum damirun munfasilun mabniyun ala sukun. This is disconnected pronoun built with a sukun. Fi mahalli nasb, in the accusative spot. Maf'ulun bih, because it's direct object. So if it's direct object, that means there should be a verb. There is a verb, as you know already. Ya'budun, they worship. So iyakum is under the influence of ya'budun. Iyakum is under the influence of ya'budun. Okay. Because the meaning is ya'budunakum, they worship you. Ya'budunakum, but you break that kum off of the back of the verb, then you're able to bring an independent pronoun to the front. So you're going to say iyakum ya'budun. Okay. So that's maf'ulun muqaddam. That's a forwarded direct object. Kanu. Here's the lacking verb, because that's we're in the chapter of lacking verbs. Kaana fi'lun madin naqis. Kaana is a lacking past tense verb. Now, if we go according to what Ibn Hisham told us, if we stick to the words of the author, the madhab of the author, we're going to say Kanu mabniyun ala dam. It's built with a dam. We're not going to say the other saying that we learned is the right saying, which is what's in Al-Ajr Rumiyya. It's built with fathun muqaddar. I'm not going to even go further down that road. I'm only reminding you. We're going to stick to what Ibn Hisham told us here. Built on a dam, or built with a dam. Kanu mabniyun ala dam. Litisalihi biwawi al-jama'ah. Because waw al-jama'ah suffixed to it. Because of the suffixation of the waw of masculine plurality. Because of the suffixation of the waw of masculine plurality, because this waw means hum. You know your pronouns, right? Inshallah, you know your pronouns. So it looks like we got past some basics. Now, we're standing at the beach. We were at the beach standing in front of the waves. There was a point where water's not even touching our toes. Now maybe water's just touching our toes. Came forward a little bit. Soon, the bottom of your feet is going to be wet before your ankles get wet, though. So make sure you have your basics here. So, like knowing your pronouns. So that waw, it means hum. So that's waw al-jama'ah, or waw jam'i al-rijal, or other words you could say. That's waw for masculine plurality, and plurality in Arabic is 3 or more. not just two. And also, yeah, that's wow for masculine plurality, but females can be included in this wow if there's at least one male. So that wow starts with 3 males or 2 males and 1 female or 1 male and 2 females. You can use this wow now. And beyond, go and more than that in terms of numbers. But not all females. So, كانوا فعل ماض ناقص. كانوا is lacking past tense verb. مبني على الضم, built with a ضم. لاتصاله بواو الجماعة, because of the suffixation of the wow of masculine plurality. Yes. Well, wow, and the wow itself, we just said what it is. ضمير متصل, it's a suffixed pronoun. مبني على السكون. This pronoun is itself built with a sukun. في محل رفع. It's in the spot of rafa. Ism Kaana, because it's Kaana's noun. And here, wal alif fariqah. And that alif is a differentiator. Okay. Ya'budun, yani that alif has a function to tell the difference between this wow and another wow. So it's called al-fariqah. This alif, which is a fariqah, it can tell the difference between various things, not just between a wow and another wow. There's other things for this alif too to differentiate. So that's alif al-fariqah, the differentiating alif. Ya'budun, ya'budun, fi'lun mudari'. That's a mudari' verb, present or future tense verb. Marfu' in a state of rafa'. وعلامة رفعه ثبوت النون, and its sign of rafa' is the establishment of the noon. لأنه من الأمثلة الخمسة, because this type of, this mudari' verb is of the type called the 5 models. Remember the 5 models? We covered all that when we talked about all the signs of i'rab. Amongst the most important chapters for you to review is the signs of i'rab, because it's going to teach you the signs of i'rab, but also is going to teach you all the various kinds of words. So that's important review for you if you're not following me 100% here. والواو ضمير متصل, and this wow, same wow, wow al-jama'ah, the wow of masculine plurality, is a suffixed pronoun. مبني على السكون, built with a sukun, في محل رفع, in the spot of rafa'. فاعل, it's the doer of the verb. والجملة الفعلية, and the verbal sentence, which is يعبد إياكم يعبدون إياكم يعبدون. This is a sentence itself. This is a self-contained sentence. إياكم يعبدون, you they worship. This sentence, this verbal sentence, في محل نصب. It is, this whole sentence is filling the spot of nasb. خبر كان. It's Kaana's predicate. the sentence, the whole sentence. So basically, the origin was to say, hum ya'budunaka, ya'budunakum. Hum ya'budunakum. That's the origin. So it means they worship you. They worship you. And again, you, as per the tafsir of the ayah, is either the angels or the idols. So they worship you. Okay. Then Kaana came. Kaana. But you don't say Kaana hum yabudunakum. You'd have to then not use hum, use wow instead. So it's going to become Kanu yabudunakum. They were worshiping you. They were worshiping you. So Kanu yabudunakum. But then what happened? This pronoun kum, it gets taken off of the back there and brought forward. So you'd say, instead of kum, you say iyakum. So Kanu iyakum ya'budun. Kanu iyakum ya'budun. And then what happened? This iyakum, which is under the influence of ya'budun, came in front of Kaana. So it became iyakum kanu ya'budun. Iyakum kanu ya'budun. So here's the ayah. Aha'ula'i iyakum kanu ya'budun. All right. So hopefully all that's clear. Now what did Ibn Hisham say to us? He said, because what's the point here? The point is that the khabar of Kaana can come in between. Can come forward. The point is that the khabar of Kaana can come forward in front of the verb altogether. So someone might say, okay, that didn't happen here though. You're telling us, someone could say to me, you're telling us, Kanu ya'budun. So Kaana is the verb. Okay. And wow here is the noun of this verb. Kanu. And ya'budun, this is a sentence, which is filling the space of the predicate. And it's still behind the verb though. So how could you use this as an evidence that the predicate can come in front of the verb? How could you use as evidence that the predicate can come in front of the verb a sentence where the predicate, which is here the sentence, is still after the verb? So Ibn Hisham is telling us here. He says, تقدم المعمول يؤذن بجواز تقدم العامل. It's like he's saying, yes, ya'budun, this sentence that's filling the space of the predicate, it is still after the verb, that's true. But this verb ya'budun is influencing another word, which is iyakum. Iyakum is under the influence, under the power of ya'budun. And Iyakum did come in front of Kanu. He's saying, and there's a rule. Whenever an influenced word can come forward, then that tells you that the influencing word that has a merit over it can come forward too. So it didn't come forward here, but it could come forward. We know that it can come forward because what's under its jurisdiction came forward. If what's under its jurisdiction can come forward, then it itself can come forward too. It just didn't. So this is a proof. This is a proof for the case. Then Ibn Hisham says, وَيَمْتَنِعُ ذَلِكَ فِي خَبَرِ لَيْسَ وَدَامَ. But this cannot happen for the predicate of laysa or dama. But we're going to stop here for today. Do you have any question I can answer for you? And if Allah enables us next week, may He enable us, we'll start from here. So you'll need to review yourself. We're not going to repeat all of what we just said. That was introduction for what we want to say now, but we're out of time. So it's on you to study. Maybe I'll repeat, but maybe I won't, and I'll just keep moving forward, relying on you having studied. So do you have a question for me? No. If the tafsir of Iyakum is the angels being addressed, it's the angels being addressed. So it means Allah addresses the angels and asks them, are these the ones that were worshiping you, O angels? I mean, you too. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. La ilaha illa Allah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Rabbi اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات. بارك الله.
I'm sorry to cut you.